Hi, and welcome to Real Clear Fetish Talks Real Clear Play, a podcast that deals with sobriety, kink life, and everything in between. This is the season final of season 8, and this week I have a very special guest, Drag Race royalty, Selena S titties on the line. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on. And when I saw you on your season talking about so candidly about your sobriety, I was just like, let me drop Selena a line, see if she would be interested being on my little podcast.
Of course, being of service.
Fantastic, thank you. So, like with every episode I do, I start with four standard questions, and then we'll just see where the conversation goes. What do you prefer I call you? Names, pronouns, and title.
Selena's fine. If you want to say Jason, since I'm out of drag, that works too. It doesn't matter to me. He, him out of drag, she, her in drag, basically.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I live in America. It's crazy, kooky, crazy over here right now. But no, I mean I'm a professional drag artist. I'm a creator, producer, director, self-produced little drag queen, and I'm living the life here in Hollywood, and I've been sober for 13 years. Yeah.
13
And
years, that's amazing.
I just celebrated 13 last Tuesday.
Oh, congratulations. That is so well done. Well done. Amazing. You kind of answered the question already, but I always ask this question. Social drinker or completely sober?
Oh, I'm completely sober from
Fantastic.
everything that affects me from the neck up.
Cool. Fantastic. And what is clear play to you and why is it important?
Oh, well, I was a meth addict. I would started with drinking, then, pot, then coke, then led to crystal meth use when I was 18, 19 years old, and that I did that for like 2 years, I believe. And then I got sober at 21. So my crystal meth use and even all my using was intertwined with sex because I think just as horny gay man, that's what I love. So that everything that I was doing was to enhance my sex. So when I got sober, it was sex was still, available to me, and I had to find how I navigated that being sober without the drugs and alcohol. And then, I think what that led to for me was finding out what my sexual ideals kind of are and what that is, because for a long time without the drugs and alcohol I was having sex, you could say, like addictively, like I was supplementing. Without that, I was using sex as my drug in a way, so I kind of had to get a handle on that for myself as well. And I think, having a sane and sober sex life without drinking and using is not easy to navigate and figure out, and I feel like a lot of people don't even realize it's a problem sometimes, if it is a problem, I know for me, I've been arrested for my sexual behavior, so like I'm sober. So I've had to really like look at what my behaviors were and like what I'm doing and what I actually do like and enjoy, and then figure out safe ways to do that without drinking and using.
Well, I find that especially when I'm assuming you use the term in the States like chemsex as well.
Um, that yeah, they have that out in the UK, I believe, right? They don't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
say
yeah.
it here. They just kind of say party and play. Like I think
Party
that's
and
what they
play, yeah.
say.
So
Yeah.
it's always when you become sober and you kind of have to figure out what was me and what was the drugs and what do I actually like and having to navigate that afterwards. How so you say that you kind of well like with any addict we kind of tend to replace one addiction with another. So tell me a little bit about how you got to a point where it's like now you can explore your sexuality in a healthy way and being sober as well.
Yeah, I think if anything, the drugs opened up my mind a little bit to the sexual activity, right? So now that I have that insight, I can like explore that sober, whatever that is. If it means gangbangs, if it's like sex parties, or like whatever the case is. I can talk like openly sexually. Like,
Absolutely. You can swear, you can talk about anything on here. When it goes on Spotify, it says explicit, so it's
okay,
fine.
fantastic. So like, you know what I mean? Like just giant cum dump whore. Like, is that what I want in sobriety?
Mm.
Is that what I'm actually into without the drugs in my system? Because I would go on nights upon nights upon nights without sleeping, just looking for sex, while I was high. And so I found that I did love that sober. So I'm like, so is it wrong? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of shame that comes in like questioning, like, is this okay? Is it not? And I think as long as you're not hurting anyone or yourself and you're having, like I said, finding what those sexual ideals for yourself are, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think I had a lot of experiences early sobriety for myself where like I would find, kind of like drugs and alcohol, I would ask myself, I'm like, am I missing work because of my sexual behavior? Am I not showing up to friends' birthdays and functions because of my sexual behavior? Is it taking precedent over like my job, my house, my health? My am I putting that first above everything else? Just like, I'm in a 12-step recovery program, so I have a higher power that I choose to call God, and like I ask myself, am I putting my sex behavior before God, like before my program,
Mm,
And if that's the case, then maybe I get to look at that. But where I'm at today, basically for myself, is like my I kind of bring God into my sex, right? Like, okay, God, if I'm supposed to be here today, like let this happen. Or if I'm supposed to, or I'm feeling horny, like do I take the time to like go and create an entire hunt for that today? Like, because part of me too is like, it's the hunt of it all that's alluring. And it's like, can I get it? And once you actually get it, it doesn't even feel like anything. But it was more the like the obsession beforehand, which is kind of like when you're getting high or you're looking for drugs. It's that like chaos of like, where am I gonna get it from? How am I gonna find it? Who has it? Da, da, da. Like that chaos is something that you kind of I know I live for in the time. So that energy, whatever that is, whatever hit I'm getting from that is real, And especially when it comes to looking for dick, I'm like, oh, who's gonna validate me? Who's gonna? I have this one. I have this guy talking to me. Okay, I have this guy over here talking to me. I have this guy down the street. This guy's over there across the city. I could go across the city, but maybe I go. You know what I mean? Like that chaos
mm.
is very alive and well today. And I when I that starts to get in the way of my life, I have to look at that.
I had a previous guest on that kind of we talked about different things and he kind of pointed out just like, well, take the situation or whatever you're gonna do and you kind of check in with your sobriety and what is this giving me? Whereas is am I doing this for the right reasons? And that's the thing with like sex. Sex can become an addiction. You talk about the chaos and looking at Grindr or whatever dating app we're looking at. We can spend hours on there looking, but when finally someone says, "Actually, I'll come over," you don't really want it.
Or like, for me personally, what I've been encountering lately is like I go and I hook up with someone and I come home and I'm like, "Ugh, I should have just jerked off. Like, why did I waste my time this whole time?" And
Mm,
sometimes I have to force myself just to jerk off. Like just jerk off, come, and then I can get on with my day. Because if I don't do that, if I don't force myself to do that, I will be hunting and like, I did it yesterday. I had this guy that I know, if he comes over every now and like he's very unreliable. I think I've never seen him use, but he gives very tweaker energy, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. Or maybe he's just a spaz. I don't know, but he's like an easy, like, hey, come over really quick and let me suck your dick kind of like friend that I have. And
mm,
yesterday he was being sketchy again as he always is, and I know this about him. And like he's like, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming, and I've waited like an hour for him to freaking come, but because of me waiting for him, I like was late to go catch my train to go to work later, but like I did that, and these little instances are what used to happen when I was using, right? Like I would like I'm like just one other hit, and I'm gonna do that, and then I show up to work late, and then I get fired. You know what I mean? Like those are the consequences that happen. So that did happen yesterday. So like 13 years later, this stuff still comes up. It's still it's still in my body. It's still something I deal with. You know what I mean? It's easy because it's not easy, but it's misleading because it's like, oh, it's just sex. Like that's not getting high. So, but it's the behaviors and actions I take, right? And like my thought process in that. Because like, why did I feel the need to have to wait around for him when I knew what was gonna happen? This it's just like drugs. Like I know what happens when I do this, and I do it anyways. It's just that alcoholic thinking or like that addictive mindset, right?
yeah,
Um,
I on occasion will have that as well, where you're kind of just scrolling through, and at the end of the day, it's like a wank would have been easier. And you kind of just get over that. It's like that horniness. The amount of guys I talk to online is like, go and have a wank, and then let's talk afterwards. Then you'll make sense.
That's nice. Do you make guys do that or you do that yourself? You
Both,
That's
both.
really smart. It's true. Like you can actually have like a yeah, realer conversation because you just start saying crazy things, not crazy, but you say things that like maybe you wouldn't have if you, it's yeah. Or even sometimes when you hook up with someone and you're finished, you're like, "Oh shit, that's what."
Yeah, just
Oh,
like
you know what I
that.
mean?
The realization of the afterglow,
Yeah, it
where it's
happens.
like, oh.
We're not ourselves when we need to come.
No, we're not. We're very much controlled by what's between our legs sometimes. So, just completely jump subject. So, you became sober 13 years ago. Can you tell me a little bit about how your journey were getting into drugs and then also coming out of drugs?
Yeah, I didn't do anything for a long time because I grew up in a very, it was like very ghetto where I grew up. So I did not relate to that and I didn't want to be that. And what I saw were people doing like drinking and smoking weed. So I was like, I'm not doing that because I'm not like these people. So when I got out of my town at 17 and moved to LA, I'm all of a sudden in Hollywood, young, gay, and like there's other gay people here, and a lot of them were drinking and stuff. So I had my first drink in college. It was a hot mess. That led to doing some pot, then led eventually to doing some coke at the club when I would go to the 18 and up club, and I met some guys there, some older men, and they had houses in the hills, and that was very glamorous. So it was all very intertwined with this like ideal of glamour and like upper, very not my hometown, right? So like this is the way you do drugs. This is the way you drink, like glamorous with hot guys and sex. And then when I graduated college at 19 and a half, 20, I think I was 20, 19 and a half, 20, I was out in the world. I didn't have school anymore. I didn't have my structure. So all I wanted to do was like party, drink, and have sex. And I would, I love bathhouses. Like bathhouses is my thing out here, especially. And in bathhouses is a lot of crystal meth. And I
Mm,
met this guy at a bathhouse and he was doing meth. And I knew in my heart that I wasn't supposed to be doing that. Like I was like, does not seem like something I should be doing.
mm,
So I would just do G with him. So I did G with him for about 3 months. I had booked a show. And as soon as I finished my show, the next day I did my first hit of crystal at a bathhouse. And that started my journey of using, which led to like homelessness, abscesses, STDs, like just totally small, small, small. All my things were in a Bed Bath and Beyond shopping cart at one point, and ended up moving in with a friend, and like still I could not maintain a healthy and like living situation. I had bed bugs, I had cockroaches. I was like pulling my mattress out in the middle of the night at 3 in the morning, covered in bed bugs, like the landlord screaming at me, and I'm whacked out, and like all I want to do is just, suck dick. Like that's at the end of the day, that's like all I really wanted to do, but like it had gotten miserable and like this. The first time I did meth was at a bathhouse and it was like an orgy with like the most beautiful men I ever had. So it was like, exciting and like fun in the first time. So you keep chasing that thinking, oh, the orgy with the beautiful men's gonna come again. And sometimes it would. That's the like reality of it, right? Like sometimes the situations are hot and sexy, but then they last only so long, right? And
mm.
so you chase that until, you're leaving. Like I said, you forget your responsibilities and people in your life and you're just left alone. And that's what I found myself. And I had the opportunity to go to a meeting when a friend invited me to a meeting here in LA. And that was my first taste of program sobriety recovery. And the next day, like I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go drinking. I'm not gonna do meth. I'm just gonna go drinking. And I took a tally on my arm of how many drinks I had in an hour that I was at this bar and I got it tattooed actually. I had 11 drinks in 1 hour and then found myself doing meth literally the next hour. I was in someone's apartment getting high again. And I was like,
Mm.
how did I get here? I literally said I wasn't going to do meth. I was just going to go drinking. So my drinking leads to me doing meth is what I learned. And then 2 days later, was my first day of sobriety. And I've been sober ever since. So that's how I've got here.
That is amazing. It's such a tough thing to kick, to get out of, and it sounds like you've really been through the ringer with it, homelessness and so on. I was luckily enough to get out before any of that kind of stuff happened, but it is a story I hear quite often, and I can only applaud that you put this work in. And see where you're at now, a successful drag queen, world famous.
It's crazy. Like I never thought that this would be where I'm at today. You know, when I got sober, 21 or when I was 21 years old, 13 years ago, I never knew this would all happen. So it's just thanks to the program and sobriety, like this is the life I've been given. I wouldn't have it had I still be out there using. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, it's weird when things come our way when we become sober, and I've definitely experienced that myself, where things all of a sudden land in my lap, and I kind of go, "Oh, I wouldn't have been able to do this if I was still using." So, tell me a little bit about Selena and how she came about.
Mhm. In the program, in the sober community in LA is very big, and there's a bunch of old gays who created a fundraiser called Best in Drag Show, which is they raise money for people living with HIV and AIDS, and it's this big, campy, glamorous, inappropriate, not PC drag show where it's very racist, it's very campy, it's very tongue-in-cheek, it's
Mm,
very inappropriate. Like that's the kind of drag but it's also very glamorous. It's like expensive and big feathers and sequins and paillettes and like it's people who've never done drag before, but putting all their money to create this one night where everyone's just, coming together for a good cause. So that's kind of my first taste of drag was this fundraiser, and I was a part of it by backup dancing and then helping, and ultimately they asked me to be a contestant. So that was my first time getting into drag was for that, which helped me create this character, which then ended up being who I am, Selena S titties today. So that was about 10 or 11 years ago because it happened when I had like a 3 year sobriety or so. And that yeah, that kind of set the example for my drag, and like I ran with it, and I live in Hollywood, and I was dancing and acting before, so I just kind of put that into Selena and let her take the wheel and the leading roles of it all. And we're here today, living a career basically, just doing drag. It's been super, super cool.
well, it's like your Instagram is constantly you're doing something somewhere, a red carpet, next gig, next venue. It's very like Lady Gaga's like club.
At a club. Yeah, I don't like not being busy. Like I need to stay busy. If I don't have money, that I relapse over money. Like money, and
Mm,
I don't relapse, but I want to kill myself when I don't have money. Like that is
mm,
literally where my head goes. I don't care to relapse today. Like my solution is, you know, sobriety, God, or suicide. Like that's literally where my head goes. I don't have
mm,
time to relapse. Like that just I know what happens if I relapse. I know what that will look like, and that's not good. I'd rather just get it over with. So that's where my head goes. And that usually comes up when I have financial insecurity. So a lot of my hustle comes from this idea that I need to have fucking money. And it's hard out here, actually. It's not easy right now for drag queens.
mm.
Politically, the climate is not easy. And just financially, the economy is really horrible out here. And there's so many drag queens with like all these franchises of Drag Race that you could be on Drag Race and it cannot even matter, really, to be honest. Like that's really where we're at today. It doesn't matter. If you're not hustling and making a name for yourself, the Drag Race stamp is amazing and helps, but if you're not hustling yourself, nothing's gonna happen. So I have a very big fear of not having money, and that's where a lot of my motivations for my drag hustle that you see online comes from. And it's funny because like on Instagram it looks glamorous and it looks, oh, she's so busy and successful, but it's like, oh, no, 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 honey, she's struggling over here. You guys don't see that part. But it's like no one wants to see that on Instagram. Like you can't be honest about that there. So thank God I have spaces like this, and the rooms where I get to be honest and like be like, I'm struggling. You know what I mean? Because I can't say that online, and because that doesn't look good to be a struggling drag queen. You have to make it look glamorous. It's all so interesting too, how like social media is such an aspect of a lot of our careers, but it's not something we necessarily talk about, in these spaces at all either. But I think it's a very important part that, causes us to want to use sometimes, right? Like the validation machine in our hand is really interesting to deal with, and it's something that's newer, and a lot of old timers that I come across don't know how to talk to me about that stuff. So, and then there's not a lot of, younger kids who know about that stuff who are very recovered and sober who can, kind of bridge the gap either. So I that's where I'm at today is I'm finding like how to navigate it all because it's in a way it's authentic on Instagram. It really is what's happening, but there's
Mm.
another side that people aren't seeing and it's like it's hard. It's not easy.
When I've struggled with either my mental health and so on, and a lot of people always kind of go, "But you look so happy online." It's like, yeah, that is the
Oh,
nice
that's the
version
job.
of my life. That is what I need to. If I keep posting that I'm depressed or so on, people are just gonna unfollow because they're depressed.
Exactly. They don't want to see a depressed drag queen. They want to see a fun, exciting, glamorous lifestyle. That's so that is really hard to like maintain and upkeep because I can easily delusionize myself into thinking, yeah, my life is great, which it is great. Yes, but the reality is that it's also a struggle and it's hard and I have to work hard in order to make sure I maintain that. So, yeah, it's a very weird balance.
It's interesting you mention about Drag Race and now with all the franchises everywhere, and God knows, I'm just waiting for Wales here to have their own. So it all of a sudden being a Ru girl is amazing, but it is slightly diluted now, or a lot diluted because there's so many franchises and so many characters. At this point, I've given up feeling I keep to the American one, All Stars, and UK. That's it.
Yeah, me too, actually. It's all I can have time for, really. I feel bad. I wish I could like get into every single one. But it is amazing. It's amazing for the fans. It's amazing for people who consume the show. It's filling up space for people who need that. But as for the queens themselves, it's great for them too. But at
Hmm.
the same time, it's not easy out here. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. So we're making it work, but there's
Well,
space for everybody.
Well, talking about like you talked about the political climate and drag queens in the States, we have a little bit of it over here as well, with like them being after drag queen story time, and these are the these are gonna go and pollute our children and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, every time I see a story of someone touching a child, it's always a white old man. It's not drag queens. How has all this anti-drag stuff affected you in the States?
I mean, it's really real out here, but it's more alive in like smaller rural communities than, I live in Los Angeles.
Mm.
So, you come and try me out here. You know what I mean? Like, I dare you to. But it's not the same. I've traveled a lot to smaller towns and I see the like their desperation to just want to be accepted and like live and it sucks that's not the case in a lot of smaller places because there's just the people who are in power and stuff there so it's unfortunate and the reality is just that it exists so I know for myself I can only speak for myself and my own actions is like I'm not gonna cease existing because they don't want us here so I'm gonna
Mm.
keep doing myself and I'm gonna do it extra louder extra bigger extra harder and on put it on my Instagram every day so you can see and I'm not gonna go anywhere because that's what they want is for us to like hide away and into obscurity but it's like it's 2024 honey we're reaching the end of 2024 there's no time for all that it's not gonna happen so that's how I see it.
I think it's important just to be loud and proud when it comes to all this. We have very much some of the same rhetoric here as well. We had recently one of the UK drag queens being called a pedophile by a well-known right-wing horrible person, TV personality, and she won the court case for defamation. So really good. So she won over this person, and he has to pay a lot of money to her. So
Good.
fantastic. Navigating your sobriety and I would say someone a little bit of fame from Drag Race and Big Brother. How has
Mhm.
that been? Because I'm assuming when there is a little bit of celebrity around you, there can be temptations around.
Oh yeah, I mean that's not a thing for me. Like I mean that's real for people, right? Like there's a lot of people doing drugs, especially in spaces that I get to go to today. Like everyone's drinking, there's always a cocktail or champagne. Everyone wants to buy you a drink. Can I get you a drink? Can I get you a drink? That's very big. It doesn't bother me. It's the culture, you know what I mean? That's part of what it is to be in these spaces, that's what comes with the territory. So I'm not like, oh my God, they're putting drinks down my throat. Like that's no girl, that's what I signed up for. You know what I mean? That's the energy there. So I'm not a victim to any of that at all. It is what it is. I just, I'm like, oh my God, I'm good. Like I'll get a Red Bull or like, thank you so much. Like, no, I won't smoke a blunt with you, but I'll light your blunt here. Like I'll light a blunt for a kid and then I'll run away. Not a kid, an adult who smokes.
Yes.
But so yeah, it doesn't bother me. It's if anything, it's like work. Like y'all better live your best life, and I'm just happy I get to be here. But I do know for myself, when I'm over it, and it's time to go. If I've done my job there, if I have, been of service where I could, what with the duties I'm supposed to do, being there, I got my photo, said the speech, did the award, it's time for me to leave. That's basically how, and I think that's true with any like not even celebrity fame, whatever success. It's just like if you're getting sober and you're staying sober, if you're in a space and you feel uncomfortable and it's time, it's okay to say goodbye. Like you can leave at any point. I always try to say, especially if you're newer, like to bring a friend with you to functions, to the club, if that's hard for you. I was going to clubs at 21 when I had 30 days. Like I was going to clubs right away because that's all I knew. So I was never gonna one who was gonna like, I can't go to the bar, I can't go to the club tonight. Like I had to be in the club. Like that's all I knew at that age. And I wanted to dance and I wanted to be amongst my community at the time. So, but then I learned like, oh, you know what? I'm okay. I can go right now. I'll be fine. It's okay to leave. I can leave the party. The party's gonna be there tomorrow. The party's gonna be there next week. The party's still gonna be the party. Like there's not I think there's also this idea of like fear of missing out if you leave, right? Like I'm gonna miss the orgy that's gonna happen at the end of this. Like fuck, girl, there's an orgy happening in every corner all the time. Like there'll be more orgies, there'll be more dick to find later. So it's okay to say goodbye and go home and go to bed and take care of yourself. So that's kind of what I've learned is like I can excuse myself without feeling guilty. And thank you.
The power of just saying no is especially when you learn that in sobriety that you can actually just not be there. It's fine. There will
Mhm.
be other times. It's you kind of spend all that time using drugs and you kind of realize, oh, that's what you can do. Oh, okay. There are actually, I don't have to be there. There's no, you don't have to have that FOMO for certain events. You have to go to certain parties, certain social gatherings because they will always be there. If
Mhm.
not that specific one, there'll be another one. So, how is it with Hollywood? And you say there's a lot of bathhouses in Hollywood. So, what
There used to be.
there used to be?
Yeah, there's only like one now in LA here. There's one in like the Valley. There's not a lot. And a lot of meth is there. So like it's kind of not as glamorous anymore. I feel like I wanna open up my own bathhouse. I feel like that's a dream of mine, low key. To have my own bathhouse here would be amazing. And then a chain of them, that would be so cool.
If Trixie can do a motel, you can do a bathhouse.
I know I want to. I want it to be very beautiful and very like clean and very like not upper, but like just not meth. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
no drugs here. It's like really a place where people can just come have fun and like relax and also maybe get a massage. Like that'd be sickening. We'll see. I don't know. I
Have
love
you
bathhouses.
ever
And
watched the film The Ritz?
no.
You should watch it. It has what's the woman from West Side Story? Oh, what's her
Re-
name?
Rita Moreno?
Yes, she plays like a lounge singer that sings in this gay bathhouse. She's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely fabulous. It was made in the 70s, this film, and it's
Yeah.
just after her West Side Story fame.
And
And
that's
she,
what they used to do in the bathhouses back in the
yeah,
day. I want to bring it back. I think that
bring
would be
it
so.
back.
I was talking to a friend, it's like they've closed down all the bathhouses out here. So when gay men don't have a place to go and, commune in that way, what we're left with is cruising. And then out here in LA right now, specifically, they're cracking down on a lot of parks and cruising areas, and people are getting arrested. And like I said, I've been arrested before from entrapment in situation where they had undercover cops in the steam room. But without spaces for us to go and do that, we try to find it because I was talking to a friend. I was like, when we're cruising, are we really cruising for dick? And like, and like, yes, we're cruising for dick, but I think ultimately we're cruising for connection in a way,
Mm.
and like, if we don't have places to build connection, and the bar is can only build so much connection there, especially with people getting drunk, and the loud music, you can't really. I don't know. I don't think it's like shouldn't be the only place we have to go find men in each other, maybe to go find each other. But we're left with like nowhere to go. So we do it where we can, right? Which happens to be parks, bathhouse, gyms, saunas. Like this is where the boys are at, and and ultimately, like I said, I think we're just looking for connection. So if we could have a space where we can have that, I think is very important. And we don't necessarily have a lot of spaces like that. Even today in 2025, they're getting shut down, and like bars can't really stay alive either at the moment. The economy's like shit over here. So there's not a lot of spaces I think left. But and I don't know, like it's not to say that the gays should have their own space that's just gays because it's like we want to be integrated into society with everyone and like everyone we should just be able to go to the grocery store and find connection. But like I don't know, that's not necessarily the case sometimes. It doesn't feel safe still. Like I said, like it's weird. I
It
think about it a lot.
it would be nice if it happened like over the produce, like in a Hallmark movie.
Like that's the dream, right?
Yeah, that would be lovely. Just like and if the guy turns out not to be gay, he doesn't get offended and we'll just move on with our day.
Yeah, yeah, right. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just open enough to be like, sure, let me try.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And it's like there is that utopia feeling that would be lovely if it was like that. Yeah, as you say, even now, it's risky making an approach to a guy you don't know what their sexuality is because they may react in a certain way. You became sober, you became a drag queen, you've done Drag Race, Emmy award-winning season, which was amazing, and you've done Big Brother now. What's on the horizon now?
Well, I just did like a 1 day influencer thing of Big Brother. I haven't actually done the whole Big Brother experience. But I did get a moment to be there, which was really cool. Now, that's the question. I don't know. I don't know what's in store. I'm open. I have a little bit of projects in the works that I'm working on, like self-producing, like scripts and movies and theatrical one-woman shows and music that I have like in the pipeline that are in the works, and we'll see what happens with those. But I don't see myself going anywhere. I see myself buckling down even harder. And like, there was a big strike in the film industry out here, TV and film industry for a while, and it's really affected the industry. So we're hoping that it picks up next year because I would really love to move more into TV and film and commercials, but they just haven't been happening much. There's been like zero auditions. So hopefully that the industry gets to boom a little next year and there'll be some more opportunities there. But until then, I'm just creating my own work and like I keep hustling. And then maybe Rue will call me for an All Stars. Who knows? I'm open and available for that. But yeah, that's basically it. We just out here making it work.
Can you tell me a little bit about your podcast you just started?
Oh yeah, actually it's it's called the Homegirl Hotline. I had a podcast during pandemic times that was actually a little bit successful. It was kind of cute, no sponsorships or anything, but we had a cute following of people who listened. And so when I was thinking of like if I had a podcast today, what would it be like? I wouldn't want it to be anything drag race related because a lot of the drag race girls who have podcasts are very drag race review shows, and
Hmm.
I already have something like that I do when the season comes out. So I was like, what can I do that has nothing to do with drag race or drag queens? Like I was thinking like, how can I even create some wellness and recovery in with a platform and a podcast that I have? So I was thinking about, program, and I don't know, in 12-step program, the way it's structured is people come in, they share how they got sober, and then people share their experience based off what the person shares. So I was like, what if I created something like that where it's like someone shares and then I share my experience based off their share. So I created the Homegirl Hotline, which is a hotline phone number that you can call and just tell me any problem that you have. So people call in with like, my boyfriend dumped me, or my ex like used to shit on my sheets, or like it's just silly things, or sometimes they're more serious, or someone's like father passed away, so we talked about that. So basically, people call in and then I just share from my experience because I think the thing too is that people don't realize is I presented a very certain way on the show that is very in your face and loud and it's titties like drag queen, but have so many layers to myself and so much life experience over these past 13 years being sober, my experience using out there, being out there in the world high and drunk and experiencing, and then being in LA and the industry is also another experience layer of the onion that I have. I have a lot of experience. So being sober for 13 years, constantly on my spiritual growth journey, like I figured let me create a space where people can call in. I'll share from my experience and we can just create a little bit of, healing within our community from a drag queen at the head, which we don't see very often. Drag queens talking about like mental, because not in a lot of drag queens aren't very mentally well. No, can't be. That's why we're drag queens. No. But I think it's I just wanted to create something different. And I will say like the numbers hurt my ego a little bit. Like I don't have the most views. I don't have it's not taking off as I thought it or as I would hope. But I find it as an investment. This is here and in the world out there for people to have when they find it. And maybe it's not taking off right now for whatever reason, but like the 1,500 people who did watch, at least it touched them, so that's how I have to look at it. So I'm just continuing it and seeing what happens from it, but it's just like my cute little side project that I'm doing right now to, like I said, create some recovery and some wellness out there from a Rue girl.
Do you know what? Yeah, views and listens are nice and so on, but I've been running this podcast for since 2020. It was a little project I started on Instagram Live, and then it just kind of developed into this. I have now people just coming up to me and it's like, oh, I didn't think I could do kink sober. I didn't think I
Mm,
could do this, but I've listened to your stuff. They may not be ready to do all that stuff again, but they're listening to these experiences from different people and learning something, exploring their mental health, so on. So all of a sudden, yes, my podcast is very niche. It's a very little demographic, but the one person that listens where they either stop using meth or seek out the right help. Do you know
mm,
what? That's worth it. It can, sometimes can be a little bit like, am I just yelling into the void?
mhm,
But I do have interactions with people who actually listen or watch the show, and having someone like you on talk about your sobriety and how messy it can get, but how amazing sobriety can become and what it can give you is so important. And it's also nice, like you say, you're a person of layers, so we see a different side to you by you doing this, and I'm very happy you came on. Actually, you wanted to talk to me.
yeah, thanks for having me. And that's another thing too, is like people see this big drag queen and they just want to talk about drag and stuff, but it's like I'm a man behind all the wigs and the makeup. You know what I mean? I'm like a horny gay like pig faggot, like and like people don't want to hear or see that though. You know what I mean? I go to a lot of leather kink and fetish meetings here in Los Angeles, but no one cares to like acknowledge me there. Like they all know that I do drag and stuff, but it's like I'm not the fantasy of like the muscle daddy with the beard and leather. So it's kind of like I'm not necessarily, I feel very looked over a lot of times in like whenever I go to a space like the Eagle or something. It's like, oh,
Mm,
that's the drag queen. They don't see me as a masculine, like, sex like desire. I'm the drag queen. And I think that's something that I deal with a lot. That's, it's all, I want to say it's all in my head, but it's not. It's real. Like,
mm,
the gays are nasty and they want what they want, and it's like I'm not fulfilling that fantasy for them. So that makes me feel some sort of way sometimes because at the end of the day, I also want the masculine,
mm,
daddy ideal as well. So it's weird to navigate, and that's something that I come across a lot. And then, just navigating sex as a Rue girl is interesting too because I come across a lot of people who know who I am and pursue me, but don't tell me they know who I am. They just wanted to like get a taste of it and say they did it. And then I'm left feeling like, what the heck just happened? So that I deal with that a lot. It's really weird. But yeah, here to say that like drag queens need love too.
yes,
But I
and
know a lot
then
of but I know a lot of them are ugly, so it's hard. But
name any names?
I don't think we have enough time. No.
Oh dear. Well, we have a long list. No, it's I think you are completely right. When I talk to other drag queens, they also have that kind of similar issue where people have a hard time looking past that they do drag. That they can be kinky, they can be horny. They don't it's not that is not the only thing they do. So when you go to the Eagle, what type of guy do you go for and what kind of kink would you get up to?
Well, I love cruising. I think like, eye contact and like the allure of like someone getting horny in the spot is really hot to me. So, but the kind of guy that I like, I don't know, I'm kind of open. I don't really know what like my type is. I'm very open to letting like God bring me what I can be attracted to in the moment. Because it's like I don't have one specific type and it varies depending on like my mood, I guess. Like sometimes I don't like twinks, but the idea of like fucking a little twink sometimes is like, oh, that sounds like fun. But I don't see myself with one. And that's another thing too. It's like there's different layers as well as what I'm attracted to because I'm like, there's a certain kind of guy that I would want to pursue romantically and
Mm,
like longevity wise, but that doesn't mean I won't hook up with someone who doesn't feel that. You know what I mean? Like I would hook up with like an older, daddy type or like a younger, cub, whatever. Like I'll hook up with all different kinds of guys, but there's definitely like a certain kind of guy that I would want to pursue romantically. So there's all these, it's so, it's not specific. But then I tell myself, well, what if I'm like, what if my romantic type is someone over here on this side. I don't know. So I'm just open. I'm open to whatever comes. And like I think the hard thing for me right now is like I crave wanting to be pursued. I don't
mm.
get pursued very often and I think I'm always the one like wanting someone, and not they don't necessarily want me or it's like whatever I end up getting it and it's fine. But it's like I don't find a lot of people who are like pursuing me and I think I just crave that when I go somewhere. I just want someone to like kind of flirt with me or be interested in me without me having to make the first move. So but then also like I don't know if the drag is part of that. Like, do they know who I am? Do they not? Does it matter? Doesn't matter? So yeah, I don't know. I'm just open right now. I don't have no intentions at all. I'm just like, if something happens, it happens. If it doesn't, okay, I'm used to that.
So we're coming to the end of our time already, and it's an absolute joy to talk to you. So at the end of this episode, if anyone's listened or watched and they've really connected with something you've said, of course they can find you on social medias, but where can they find you?
Yeah, Instagram at S titties. That's ES titties. I mean, my YouTube channel is Selena S titties on YouTube, and I have all my video content there, and you can interact with me there as well.
And just at the end, any advice you would give to someone who's either maybe like starting out in drag or starting out in their sobriety journey?
If you're starting drag, just quit now. It's not worth it. No, I'm just kidding. But if you're getting sober, I would just say just be as honest as possible. Like that's how I stay sober is I'm honest about everything that I'm feeling. And sometimes I'm too much of an open book and people are like, girl, have some class or have some shame. And it's like, no, girl, the way I've been able to stay sober and succeed in my life is because of how open and honest I am with whatever it is I'm going through. If I'm like, oh my God, this guy didn't look at me today and he's like stressing me out because over here he's talking to that guy, but he's not talking to me. Like I let it out and I say it, but I say it with people who can take care of what I'm saying, So that my sponsor, my close friends who are also sober, people who understand. I can't bring my open and honest authenticness to the whole bit of it, to someone random. They'll look at
Mm.
me crazy. So I have to bring it to people that I feel safe with, who understand my situation and where I'm coming from, and who understand how my brain work when I feel like I don't know how my brain is working at the moment. So
And one last comment, and I kind of questioned myself if I was going to ask or not. When you made the hanky code dress, did you think about what you were signaling
the
with those?
brown one.
Yeah, the brown one.
No, I knew it. I knew that was gonna be a thing. It's so funny. But I actually have, the hanky code and the bandana paisley is also very intertwined with Latin West Coast culture. So there's the two dynamics, which I really love. It's playing into the sex kinks of it all in queer community, but it's also playing into my Latin roots, and especially being on in the West Coast over here, so in California. So I love that it plays with both. I'm not necessarily into scat play, but that brown look is sickening. Like,
I love that dress, but there's almost should I make like a comment video and kind of goes, who's gonna tell her?
oh no, I totally, and it had yellow and brown, so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a good combination. But at least it'll be a giggle for anyone who does know. But I also I have every color. I have red, pink, blue, green. As I get it made in every color. So
Thank you very much for coming on and talking with me.
thanks for having me.
And that was Selena Is Titties on the podcast. It was an absolute joy to talk to her and get a little bit of life history from her and getting to know her a little bit more about her sobriety journey and her drag journey and just bathhouses. It's been absolutely amazing. This is the final episode of season 8, and I'll be back in a couple of months before I start the next season. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Go out and be kinky and sleazy and do gangbangs. That's also valid. Bye.